Hello, Epic Hero. My name is Hope Pennington, and I'm the author of the young adult novel Fairytale, published a year ago. It's a story about a modern teenage boy who gets thrown into a epic medieval cliche fairy tale and has to save the day with his knowledge and being able to predict the cliche stereotyped characters in the story. Basically, it's a comedy about a modern teen clashing with epic medieval fantasy. I just recently did a book tour where I was privileged to be able to guest post and do some interviews on some very awesome blogs that I will link below. During the book tour, I did a Twitter Q&A where people could ask me questions using this hashtag, and I said that I would do a vlog where I answered all the questions. So I'm going to do that now, but just so you guys know, if you want to ask me any more questions related to Fairytale or other writing things, feel free to use this hashtag and continue the questions rolling, and I can do a follow-up blog. Question number 1. What do you do to get over writer's block? From Miss M. I used to have to deal with writer's block a lot more. Like, I would get somewhere in the story and not know what was going to happen next. And I guess I've developed so many routes around that now that doesn't usually happen. Usually these days when I can't figure out what to write, it's because I literally have no inspiration. Like, I'm just staring and thinking, I want to write an epic thing, but what? So usually what I do in that case is I go to things that have never ceased to give me inspiration. For instance, if there's a TV show that I really like, or a TV show that I've heard is going to be really good. If I don't know of anything good coming out that I know it's going to inspire me, I like to go to an art museum, even if it's just a local little art display, local artist display, or some, go to a playhouse or somewhere where that new fresh art is going to be created, or even if it's going to anthropology or some kind of clothing store that is really artistic, something that can sort of get your spark, something they'll have some kind of new kind of art, always gets my inspiration gears turning. And if it's more like I'm writing a story already and I already know where the story's going, but I just can't figure out, I've just kind of run out of oomph to figure out what the character's gonna say or what this exact situation should be, a lot of times I will still do that same thing because having a fresh perspective can help. And if I'm having trouble getting in tune with my character, what he's gonna say or what he's gonna do, then I usually go out and try to whether I'm mowing the lawn or doing the dishes or something, I try to, speak as that character and respond back as some other characters, sort of get inside their head and figure out what their rhythm is, what their groove is, what's entertaining about them, what's funny, what's mysterious, what's enticing, until I get into the groove of really liking this character again. Question number 2 comes from Zoe, and it says, when did you start writing and what got you started? I started writing when I was I don't even know. It's gotta have been when I was 7 or 8, and what got me started writing was definitely that my older sister Grace, author of the Firmament series, started writing, was writing ever since I can remember. And so she, when I was 7 and 8, she was writing mystery novels, I think highly inspired by the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and stuff. And so she was writing the Tucker Twins mystery series, and I would read every single one. I thought it was so cool that she could write these books, and she'd been writing since before then. And so then I started writing little mystery stories, kind of mimicking her, until she got really into, Lord of the Rings, and she got really into Star Trek, and I trailed right along after her and got really into those things. And so she was writing a science fiction novel for my dad's birthday, and I was 9 years old at this time. And so I decided that I was going to write a science fiction book for his birthday. And she tried to tell me that I was copying her, and I protested incessantly that I was not. But so I obviously was, but I wrote my idea of a novel, which was 9 pages or something, I don't know, maybe 10 pages long, of the story about aliens coming to Earth and becoming superheroes. And after that, I wrote some more books in that series that were sci-fi and stuff. But then I started reading a lot more of the Narnia books, reading a lot more Lord of the Rings and Redwall, and I started getting really into fantasy. So by the time I was 13, I started writing my first actual novel, and it was a fantasy novel. And fantasy is still my first love just because it's so fantastic. I love things like Alice in Wonderland. Of course I love Narnia and Lord of the Rings, but I also just love anything fantastic and whimsical, you know. A lot of animes are like that. So this was my homage to the mirage of cliche fairy tales that I came across, cliche fantasy novels that I came across around the ages of 15, 16, etc., trying in vain to find good fantasy novels to read. And you know, I ever since then I just kept writing, I guess, fantasy and stuff. Question number 3. Why do you dislike flat characters? Why do you dislike flat characters when in real life we meet so many of them who do not transform? That from Ramiza. I'm not sure I completely understand your question, because flat characters, when I say that I dislike flat characters, I mean cheesy characters. I mean characters that are not fully developed. Like every human you meet, they may seem cheesy on the outside, but they have multiple layers of motivation and past experience and personality and multiple contradictory, you know, forces inside them. So a well-developed character is going to have all that thought out, their backstory, their quirks, their multi-layered personality, you know. And a flat character to me is a non-realistic character. So I can't say that I meet them in real life, like real humans. Although some humans can seem to be pretty flat if they won't get deeper than surface level. But on another note, connected to that, some things, shows, and movies that I like actually are kind of cheesy and do have kind of cheesy characters. Obviously, I can't hate cheesy characters too much since every character in this book besides Sean is a really cheesy character. But I think there is, because that he's had to do a cheesy story, but I think there is a level of charm to, like, you know, that cliche knight in shining armor, that cliche beautiful princess, that, you know, cliche evil overlord, I'm so evil, you know. I think there is a kind of familiarity and charm that comes with those typical, overused, underexplained, underdeveloped characters. There's a charm to them, like there's a reason they've been used so often. We all like a knight in shining armor, we all like a beautiful princess, and we all love to hate an evil overlord. But I'm always like, even if a show or a movie has like cheesy characters, I always like to see that little glimpse at something deeper, because that makes me feel like they are possibly real. Question number 4. Can you share a few writing hacks that have worked for you? From Priya. Writing hacks. Well, definitely, like I said, when I can't figure out what the character should say, whatever chore I'm doing or whatever I'm doing after I was done writing for the day, I think I talk as them out loud, hoping no one will be watching me, have conversations as them constantly, and try to... I used to write them down when I'd be having conversations with characters, but more often now I just sort of talk it out loud in the shower, etc. And sort of until I can get into the groove and the ebb and the flow of how this character sounds. I have a bad habit of talking to people when they're not there. You call it too much of an imagination. So if I'm not talking to fictional characters, chances are I would just be talking to real people when they weren't there and having all those conversations. And that's not very good for business with relationships, when you have like a best friend and you know, you're thinking, what would she say if I said, I think that I'm going to get a nose piercing? And then you start talking through it and you're like, so I think I need a nose piercing. You start being like, imagining how she's going to react, start talking for her and talking for you. And it's always better just to not have imaginary conversations constantly. So if you're going to have imaginary conversations, why not have them with your fictional characters that you develop and write into books? The cure for the overactive imagination, writing books. Yeah, so that's all the questions. Thank you guys for submitting these, and continue to use the hashtag if you want me to do a follow-up video, Fairytale question and answer part 2. And do yourself, and always remember that we are epic heroes today and every day of our lives, no matter what you or anybody else around you happens to say about it. So I will see you in the next video. Bye. The Writing Sisters. Dun 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 dun. Is that good for you? Would that be good for you? You.
Like, ow.